Are you suffering in silence with maybe too many burdens, traumas, or something painful that's happened to you? Well, today's guest shares how she dealt with this for many, many years. And through faith and her own discovery, she was able to work through this and break through to the life she has now. Disclaimer: any of the guidance offered by the podcast host, myself, or the podcast guests is our own guidance. We are not liable for any of the actions the podcast listener decides to do. Welcome back to the Self-Esteem and Confidence Mindset podcast with me, Johnny Pardo. And today I welcome Debbie Widhalm to the show. And I'm excited to talk to Debbie in today's episode. So, quick introduction to Debbie. So, Debbie is an author, speaker, and founder of the Women of Worth, also known as WOW initiative, dedicated to empowering women to reclaim their voices, heal their stories, and rise into purpose. Known for her unwavering resilience and faith-driven leadership, Debbie transforms her personal journey through trauma, silence, and renewal into a powerful mission to uplift others. Her work blends compassion, courage, and community, creating safe spaces where women can grow, connect, and rediscover their God-given worth. Through her writing, public speaking, and advocacy, Debbie continues to inspire countless lives with the message that healing is possible and that every woman carries a story worthy of being heard. Welcome to the show today, Debbie. Glad to have you on.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you for all the work you're doing to allow people to work, or women in particular, to work through what they've been going through, to allow them to see their own worth. So I'd love to start out, Debbie, to kind of hear about what was your story to get you so driven into this work. It sounds like allowing people to discover their worth, work for a lot of like healing and trauma and these kind of things. It's really important to you. So yeah, like how did this like mission begin for you?
As far back as I can remember, I've been a helper of people. As a child, I was sexually abused by my grandfather and a childhood friend and an uncle. And then later on in life, my father kissed me with a French kiss with his tongue. And these incidences created a pattern in my life from childbirth that I had to study and find out why I always attracted the same kind of people in my life, why I was always attracting drama, why my life was following a certain path where I'm always going through something a lot, of adversity. And I realized that from a young child, I was groomed to take care of the world. I was groomed to be quiet. I was told that if I told anyone of the sexual abuse, that nobody would believe me. I would be called a liar. And I was just to be quiet, to take whatever was done to me, and I did, because I didn't want anybody calling me a liar. I was a good little girl, and, it was important to me to tell the truth in life. So I grew up with these voices in my head telling me that, you're bad, and, you need to be quiet and don't tell anybody. So I kept a secret for a long time. And as I grew up, I was 16 years old. I got pregnant and I had my son, who I chose to keep at the age of 17. I married the boy that I was pregnant with, and we were only married for about 8 months. But it was a very violent marriage. I wasn't with him much of that time. My parents, would rescue me at different times. But I went through that, and they tried to kill me. They were trying to, find me, and they were shooting guns. But God has always had his hand on me through angelic ways. He just protected me and my child in so many just miraculous ways throughout the years. And then I became a nurse after I got a divorce from this first husband. I was a nurse's aide for 5 years, where I just kind of walked as a missionary in the hospital, going from room to room, just praying with people and helping them. I was very good at listening to people, very good at being their hero, very good at feeling an unconditional love for humanity. I just had carried such a deep empathetic spirit for mankind that it was very easy for me to be a nurse. It was very easy for me to put myself in a position where I was helping others. And during all these years of helping other people, I didn't know that I was ignoring myself. I didn't know that I mattered. I didn't ever consider my self-esteem was worth didn't feel, that I didn't even know that I had a self-esteem or that I didn't even know that I mattered, that I could even feel that way. And it wasn't until years, decades later that, I had carried the secret of being sexually abused. My father kissed me when I was 19 years old, and I carried that until I was 56 years old. And he accused me of being a liar one day over an incident with my brother, and it pushed the trigger in me that finally just set me off. And that's where the title of my book came from, No More Silence. A trigger, a well-buried trigger that had been there since I was a child, where I'd been obedient to obey everybody's rules. I'd been obedient not to tell the things that they had done, to speak of the sins, and I just decided in one moment, I matter. And I am not going to be quiet anymore. And I confronted him over sticking his tongue down my throat. I told him his dad had done things to me my whole life, and he called me a liar and cursed me out. And at that point, I stood up for myself and I said, I will never hold another secret in my life again. I'm not going to protect you people. You will never be able to do that to me again. You're the liar. I'm not. And I stood up for myself that day. It set me free, truly, metaphorically and in all ways, it set me free. I felt something shift inside me. I felt a power rise inside me, and I knew I was worthy at that point. I knew that I mattered at that point, and I knew that I was an important human. So I started to live that way, and I just began one day to after a lot of losses. I lost my son and my 4 beautiful grandchildren through a disagreement, and, I just started to write my book in 2022, and, I wrote it and just the story just started pouring out of me, and I realized that if I could walk through life being silenced and told that I don't matter, my voice it's just, relevant. There are other people out there that are going through that too. And it's a horrible feeling to be silenced and to be told that you need to keep your mouth shut because you don't matter. And I walked through life not feeling loved, yet I was giving unconditional love to everybody I came in contact with. I became a nurse and worked in the burn center for 20 years and had a wonderful career doing that and had helped a whole lot of people. And once I was able to write my book, No More Silence, I got a new healing that came where I felt, okay, it's out. And there was something that was released in me from that too.
Wow, that's a story that the world, in my view, needs. Like, because I know a lot of others are out there, silence, not being that we all go through different things, and some, you went through a lot there that you've shared, and really being able to share our voices is something you're empowering people to do, and it sounds like
Mhm.
in that book. But for you, like, from my understanding, it was sharing your voice was just kind of like it was like a breaking point, and then you had to share it. Was that right?
Once that one my father pushed a trigger in me that I was protecting him all those years. What they had all abused me, and I was protecting the abuser, and I was the one that had been abused. I've talked to so many women who are going through the same thing, You're so embarrassed because somebody abused you. It makes you feel like you're a slut or something, If somebody's gonna touch me inappropriately or rape me or do something against my will, then I must have asked for it. You go through all this stuff in your head, and it just wreaks havoc on your self-esteem. And, I went through all that, but when my father called me a liar, there was something that rose up in me. It was like the girl was always there, the powerful woman was always there, superwoman was always there. My own hero rose up out of me, and I said, "No more. I will never be silent again. You can't treat me this way anymore." And I just began to speak up and speak out against anything like that, and, um, have my power. It empowered me. I have my power now to be able to say anything, where before I was protecting those who had abused me. I'm the one that needs to be protected, and I became my own hero. Now I protect me, and so I freed my voice.
And what other way were there other ways you started to love yourself more after freeing your voice?
I saw that I was worthy, and where I never noticed it before, because I was always taking care of everybody else. I began to, set boundaries, when where I was uncomfortable before. It's like with my own family, if I felt tired because I didn't want to maybe babysit at a specific moment, then I began to speak up and say, "Hey, I'm just exhausted here. Can we do this another time?" Well, that was good for me, but it created a problem with them because they weren't used to me doing that. Um, and, me being able to speak up and out for myself made me determined that I wanted to help other women do that for themselves, which is why I created the business Wow Women of Worth, because I want everyone else to know that they are worthy also and try to teach them that.
I love that. And what kind of guidance could you offer someone who's maybe not a woman who's maybe not at like that kind of breaking point, but they know they want to share their voice. They know there's more in them, and they want to be that authentic them.
I feel like everybody is their own hero. And, I've had a unique journey walking through life because I haven't had an emotional support system from family. And I was my own support system for years and decades. So what makes my healing unique is that I truly learned how to be my own hero. I know how to show up inside for me. And I think the key is learning to listen to that still voice that's within all of us, our intuition, the voice that guides us, God, whatever you call it, whatever, that voice, something told me, we all have a way that we describe it. But when I learned to listen to that little guide, that little voice that I always hear, I started showing up for me. And I had a powerful dream back in 1998, that taught me how to be my own hero. I saw myself, I was walking through a room, and I was a little baby, and I had a red football helmet on, and I had rolled down to the foot of the bed, and I was getting ready to fall off the bed as an infant. My mom was reading a book, and my dad was watching TV. And I walked by as a young girl, and I saw myself as a baby, and I went over there and said, "Oh my goodness, let me grab you. You need to be protected." And each day I walked by there, I was a different age, and I rescued that baby at different ages. And I was the hero to that baby. I took the red helmet off, and I said, "You will never need this again, sweetheart. You're safe now. I love you. It's gonna be okay. We got each other now. You don't have to worry. You're not gonna fall off that bed. You're not gonna have to wear that helmet anymore. You're not gonna have to be worry about anything because I gotcha." And that dream taught me that I gotta show up for myself. And by talking tenderly to myself like that, I was able to heal that little baby and take that helmet off and make that baby feel safe and bring myself up to the current day and time where I could concurrently live at whatever age I was at instead of showing up as a child. We sometimes show up as infants or we show up as little children, in our emotional actions and stuff. And when we're able to heal that emotion, go through those steps and be our hero, our own hero, that's whenever we can show up for ourselves and the child goes away because it feels safe finally. It's been seen, it's been heard, it's not being ignored anymore, and we validate that part of ourself that needs that. And I think if women can listen to that little voice that's inside them and just know, begin to show up for what age am I really living at here right now? And if there's a little girl that never did get, that little dollhouse or whatever she wanted, that is always going to the antique stores and going, I really still feel that need there, Sometimes there's a psychological connection there, I think, that guides us to that. And I pay attention to stuff like that in my own life so that I go, "Okay, well, maybe I'm stuck in the year 19 or something, where I was doing this or doing that." And, that's how I have healed myself. I pay attention to my dreams. I pay attention to what draws me. If I will go to an antique store, what's the antique store represent? The past. So there's something in the past that I'm being drawn to that makes me wanna pull in this teacup that may have looked like my grandma, What about that era made me feel good or bad? Am I trying to feel good, or am I going back to a place where I felt a trigger, And when I pay attention to those things, those are ways that I am able to find healing and work through that.
Sounds like sort of like you connecting with your inner child was quite a powerful one in that dream.
Very, very much so, yes.
And was that something you did more than once to kind of work with that inner child, or was that kind of a powerful experience in itself and you felt sort of healed from that?
For me, that was a powerful experience because I interpreted the dream myself, and I went to every stage of my life where I didn't feel safe and I protected myself. But I have gone back to that for years since then. Just because it was that powerful, I remind myself, you don't need to feel unworthy, girl. I mean, you got it. You have been through more than anybody could dream of going through, and look at you. You've made it. I talk to myself like that, and I'm proud of myself. I'm proud that I have made it through all the things I've made it through. Literally, it's been God that's been with me, but, you know, he and I have figured out how to walk a path when there wasn't a lot of emotional connection with family and people due to circumstances. I figured it out myself with God.
So when was it you first started to feel that connection with God? And how did you kind of come about in that connection?
You know, I was raised as a child going to church all the time. I've always felt close to God. I've always kind of walked with him. It's like it's not, I talk to him telepathically. It's like, I used to, whenever I was a young 18 and 19 up until about 22, 23 years old, I would pray 2 hours a day in my closet. I took it literally and I did it. At least 2 hours every day, I would get in my closet and pray, and I would read the Bible. I almost memorized the whole Bible back then. So that's when I was a nurse's aide and I was walking along, before I became a nurse. And then I would just go in all the patients' rooms and just pray for them. They'd die. And, you know, I was right there before they died. And I helped a whole lot of people, get into the next phase of life as they passed. But I I've always known him, just because my parents kinda raised us that way, but I feel like I have a special connection with him, just because I've leaned into him when I didn't have others, so I just kinda learned that he was there with me, and he still is, and now it's just kinda a telepathic thing that I work on every day.
Connecting and kind of listening to
Mhm.
that voice. I know a lot of us can struggle with hearing that inner voice, whether it's that, that child within you, that past part of you that you've touched on, or maybe it's the
Mhm.
voice from like a god or some kind of guide. How can someone get more in touch with that intuitive inside voice when they've got like so much going on in their head?
I think it comes through being quiet, finding some silence, going out in nature, just finding some time, maybe every day, just to be silent, just to be quiet, and pay attention to how you feel. Pay attention to thoughts that come into your head. Pay attention to your dreams if you're able to dream. If you're able to remember them, write them down and watch patterns. Write the thoughts down as you start to hear this same kindness, because it is a kind voice that God is. And as you start to hear that same impression, you learn to recognize that this is a voice that wants to help me. And this is a voice that wants to help me find a better way, wants to help me find a better path. Um, I find God when I'm sitting out on my patio in the dark. I look up at the sky and those stars. My night sky is right up in the east, and in the summertime, you can see the Milky Way and Orion, and it's just beautiful, and it amazes me, and so I think opening your mind up to wanting to hear a new guidance is an important step, but I think nature helps us find it. I go barefoot a lot. So I ground myself a lot in nature. And I think that getting in contact with nature and just appreciating it helps you get in touch with that inner guide also. Meditation is good.
Things, it sounds like things to get you away from the everyday kind of like noise or
Mhm.
activity of keeping that mind busy, whether it's nature, whether it's looking up the sky at night or just general sort of silence, meditation you touched on there as
Mhm.
well.
Mhm.
In powerful sort of ways of being, it sounds like has helped you. Um,
I went to Sedona a lot, during, my darkest times in 2020 up until the past about 2024 were some dark years for me. That's when I lost my son and grandchildren from my life, and I was grieving heavily and crying a lot. I missed them terribly. And I would go to Sedona. My husband and I went there several times and just sit on those big old vortexes and climb as high as we can. Let that sun just come down and be. Oh, it was so healing and so beautiful, and I spent a lot of time crying on top of the vortexes, and it was very, very healing for me. I find God in nature a lot. I find God in creatures, spiders, crawlies, creepy crawlies, everywhere you look. It's in unexpected places. Sometimes I'll just stop and I'll see the ant walking or the spider, and if you ever just pay attention, you see a mother spider clutching her little nest, her little egg sac. And I was building a patio walkway to a hut that I have recently built in my backyard. I saw a mother spider last summer and she was clutching her little egg sac and I just stared at her. I must have looked like a monster for, looking down like that. All she can see is my head and my eyes. But I had compassion and she watched me. She just took her little egg sac and tucked it under her and walked away with her little eyes looking up at me. I see God in that. He created that. So it's easy for me whenever I open my mind up to nature, I open my heart up to a voice that says, I create all good things. I created everything, and I care about everything. I care about that spider and her egg sac. He put the instinct of mother to protect her kids in that spider. And to me, that says a lot. And it makes me feel loved when I see that he cared so much for a little spider that he put a little egg sac, made her fight for her egg sac. So I feel it helps me to fight for myself because I see that, you know, I was created in the image of God, and he's a pretty powerful guy. So I find his voice, and I don't always call him God. I just, it's that inner voice, it's just that knowing. It's the guide, it's the, you know, the intuition, but basically, in my perspective, it's God. It might feel uncomfortable for someone else to label it that, and that's good, that's fine. But however you can find the goodness, that inner voice is good, that wants you to make you a better person, that wants to guide you. And it's always filled with love. It's always love.
Mm.
It's not judgmental.
Finding those appreciation and that you're cared for, like by just seeing examples of nature, like the mother spider and various
Mhm.
things like that, really allows you to connect with God. I love that. In the silence. But I'd love to hear a little bit about Women of Worth. I know you're like running that. What's kind of the main aim of that? Kind of what you go through? Is it kind of like a community?
Yes, it is. There's workshops and, that we have with it. There's different evergreen videos that we have. We have destination retreats, and the whole purpose is to gather women together, to remind ourselves that no matter what we go through in this world, no matter what someone has told you, no matter what judgment you have been given, you are powerful and you are worthy and you are loved. Because as a woman, we're not always treated the same as and fair. Um, and women are hard workers and we carry a mother heart instinct in us, most of us. Some maybe don't, but I think that drive inside each woman creates a very busy mind where you try to take care of so many people at once, you just forget yourself. You get lost in the world. And it's a time to remind you that it's time to take care of you. Let's take some moments to saturate ourselves in just pure love and some good sound and meditation and some good lessons on how we can just really find ourselves and saturate ourselves with goodness and mercy and have grace with yourself. Know that you are valuable. What you bring to this earth is uniquely you. Nobody, whether you're a woman or a man, a child or a teenager, we all have value and we all bring something that no one else can do.
Mm.
Now, when you think about it like that every human has a purpose that nobody can replace. That's valuable. It means that we all have worth. And yeah, it's a good time of just bringing women together and reminding them of their worth and celebrating the worthiness of being and letting go of those labels, letting go of those judgments, letting go of all the things that have put you in a box. I like to live outside boxes. I don't like boxes in my world. And I've always kind of been the kind of person that if you try to put me in a box and you give me these rules, I will claw my way out of that box and I will create my own rules. So Women of Worth is a place to create your own rules so that you can shine and grow and be and lead and empower others.
In fact.
Yes.
So Debbie, you've got some amazing work. You're there. You've got your book. You've got Women of Worth. So I'd love to know, as we kind of wrap things up today, where women or anyone can find more about Women of Worth, and also where we can find your book, No More Silence, as well.
Um, my website is Debbie Widhalm, DebbieWidhalm.com. My books are available on the website. This is the current No More Silence book. I don't know where that light is coming from, but it's not real good. And I'm getting ready. My publisher is publishing a new cover for this, so it will look different. This is coming out in Spanish real soon also. They're working on that today. I also have a children's book called The Story of Tops the Chinese Goose. It's a very heartwarming story for all ages, not just children, but for adults. And it is a story that teaches emotions unconditional love, accepting others right where they're at without judgment. That's pretty much how I live. I love humanity. I don't see color. I don't see walls. I don't see boxes. I think we are all equal, and I love all humanity. I love people from every land. And this is the Chinese goose who also accepts all creatures like that. And it's a very heartwarming story of how he has embraced the Canadians each year and the coyote and beaver and all kinds of people or creatures are in his storyline. And he teaches how to deal with emotions and have unconditional love. So you can find both of these books on my website. I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn, some a little bit on TikTok, but I haven't done that too much. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, you can buy the books online. Ingram Sparks, pretty much. I've got the Audible version of No More Silence that's available on Spotify, Kobe, all the different Audible places, but they're all available on Amazon also.
Amazing, Debbie. So much valuable resources, both on your website, to find out about the books and what else you're doing, and Amazon. So for the listener today, you can find them all in the show notes below, or the links to Debbie's websites and the Amazon and social medias as well. So, Debbie, I want to thank you for everything you've openly shared, all the great golden nuggets you've given us today, and for all the work you're doing. So, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Johnny. It was a pleasure talking to you and being here today. Thank you so much.
Of course. So, that concludes our episode for today. And remember to lead with your heart and not with fear.